Oh, boy.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Mike Holloway, winner of Survivor Worlds Apart. And you're about to listen to a podcast with two best friends that love to talk about the game that we all love, Survivor. So sit back, grab a Dr. Pepper, because I'm 155,000% sure you're about to love to listen to Dwayne and Dave. Take it away, guys.
Welcome to the show. I'm Dwayne.
And I'm David.
And we're just two best friends talking about the show we love, Survivor. Tonight we are going to be talking about episodes 10 and 11, and we have a special guest from True Dork Times, the writer of The Baker's Dozen. Ladies and gentlemen, Andy Baker.
Well, I would disagree that I think my bite is significantly worse than my bark. But thank you for that introduction. It's been far too long.
Yeah. And the reason why I chose Leave Me Alone, I'm a Family Man is because every time we try to have him on the show, he goes, I'm sorry, but I have to go to bed.
It's true, and as I told you, Dwayne, I've got a sick baby in the house, so,
I'm so sorry.
She may end up making a cameo at some point during the show.
All right.
And she sounds a lot like me when I am writing one of my conspiracy columns. It's just, I mean, that's what we're in for.
Nice. Well, tonight we have some episode 10 and 11 discussion. We have listener feedback a little bit. Looks like everybody was on Thanksgiving break and didn't write anything. We have Pondering Ponderosa. We have iTunes reviews. We have Miko's Challenge, which, if Andy is here, will get to help me. That's kind of the way we do things around here. The guest always helps Dwayne. And then, of course, the D&D Survivor Challenge results. So, if you're watching and chatting on live, stwdd.com/live, enjoy yourselves. Feel free to use hashtag STWDD, and we'll get your thoughts on the air. And last thing, thanks for supporting D&D and shopping Amazon using our website links. We really appreciate it. So, how about episodes 10 and 11?
I'm just glad that they had a double episode because, just individually they were just so boring.
Yeah, I know. It's always this way every year.
Yeah, it's amazing to me that they picked two of the most action-packed episodes to burn on the night before Thanksgiving, and leading to some pretty, as I understand it, epically low ratings. But what are you going to do?
Yeah, well, you know what it says to me is they don't really have any boring episodes.
Yeah, quite possibly. Although, well, I am sure we'll get into this, but I would argue that our next episode is going to be, well, it's going to have the family visit, so that's going to be nice. And as I've said before, I'm an unrepentant sap. I love that stuff. But I don't know. I think you're going to have at some point a Joe boot, which is going to feel pretty predictable. And as the benevolent despot of True Dork Times pointed out, they started Survivor a week late this year,
right?
To give a little more Big Brother, and it's like, well, why? Why not spread these two episodes out? I mean, they're that good.
Yeah, I agree. David, what do you think, buddy? Do you think these were two episodes that surprised people because they weren't boring like they usually are when they're double episodes?
Absolutely, because even on our Facebook group, folks were, contemplating, this will be two that we'll be glad to get to Thanksgiving for. They'll just be two predictable boots and, nothing great. I mean, because usually we used to get the recap at this point. A nice, boring montage. I know, thank you. That and the Walk of Memories, whatever that thing's called. Take those and never use them ever again. But
that's right.
This two episodes, they were good enough, obviously, to stand on their own. But I texted Dwayne after the episodes, or it might have been Thursday. By the way, I'm not going to have any initial reactions because I've got topics. I've got discussions. I've got points I want to talk about. It's not initial. It's wow. What a great two episodes. So yeah, there was probably two of the better episodes. If not the best episodes.
I really enjoyed it. And jumping ahead to episode 11, I really enjoyed Kelly's taking over and really turning the game on its head and surprising some people and doing the unexpected. Really, really made for a great two episodes. So,
how do you think she took over?
how do I think she took over? Well, everybody was thinking Joe, and she said, now's my chance. I can get 5 people and get Tasha and Jeremy and Kimmy and them on the bottom and no longer the power people. So I think she took over. I don't know if she took over like next week she'll be in charge, but she really did a good move this week. I
think you can count on whoever was in charge this week is not in charge next week.
Well, that has been the way it's been. Yeah,
that's what's been so great about this season.
Yeah, it's truly been great in that regard. Yeah. So I tell you what, why don't we? I know we have topics of discussion, but do you want to kind of keep it in episode 10 and episode 11, or are we just going to go all over the place?
Yeah, I've got my topics, but I can just throw them in as we kind of cut through the episodes because they're kind of advantage. They're kind of I got one pre-episode.
Well, let's go because I'm not recapping it. So.
Well, is anybody ever going to go for an advantage again in the season? Because it's 2 seasons in a row where all the advantage did was put a fat old target on your backside for Dan and for Fischbach. I mean, to me, looking at these challenges, it's like shooting a 6-bullet gun with 1 bullet. You've got 1 chance to get it right, and you've got 5 opportunities for them to get you.
Yeah.
You know, you really got to find the 1 chance to use it and use it for your advantage in the game. Otherwise, it's a target on you every tribal council that you go to going forward.
Well, especially whenever every time you go to tribal council, Probst goes, by the way, you have an advantage. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm of the opinion. Obviously, production puts these things in, and they want to use them. They want to see them used. They want to see them used well. They put 2 different advantages into play, and both of them ended poorly. Whether they're going to find a way to introduce an advantage in a quieter way, I think they like the idea of having uncertainty playing a role, but they're going to have to be quieter about it. That you're going to have steps to find this thing, and just like an idol, so that people don't know that you have it. Because just imagine breaking that thing out when nobody knows it's coming. Right. How surprising and how awesome that would be. And I think even though they made a somewhat big deal out of it, I think the players were making an even bigger deal out of the advantage than we were shown. Like Steven rocketed to the top of everyone's list because of that advantage.
Right.
And I'm sure we'll get into it, but I think that played a huge role in why Jeremy saved him with the idol, because he essentially was trading an idol for keeping an advantage and Steven in the game as a target and as something that he could possibly use. It was that powerful to them, and they knew it would get more and more powerful the deeper you went into the game. When you have savvy players around, they're going to keep attacking until it's gone.
Well, let's talk about that, because I know that David wrote in our Facebook group about how didn't you say you felt like Jeremy made a mistake playing it for Fischbach?
Yeah. I lean more towards I wouldn't have done it instead of done it, because I know that Fischbach was his closest ally, but with the shelter now in place, well, no, actually this was before the shelter when he played it. But still, I don't know. To me, being so early, and I know there are many examples of people that have played him early and only had 1 idol, I think it just shows a sign of confidence when the entire tribe wanted him gone except for 2 other people or 3 other people, and he still plays it and keeps him. And then he turns around to that big number of group with Kimmy and Tasha and Fischbach and says, now what you going to do? Oh, well, you've still got numbers, so you can still do something. But at the same time, I would worry that people might think that I have a spare idol. To give on this season with returning players to give up an idol for somebody else, unless you can keep it 6-5 or 7-6 or 5-4. To me, it's really, I don't know, throwing a rock into a volcano or something. It's not going to come back to help you. And then what I apologize for who said it. Somebody said it on our Facebook group. You put that idol back in play, which the very next episode we get an idol back in play.
Right.
So he's down an idol and he's down a friend eventually.
Yeah, I spend probably way too much time trying to dig into this in my column, which isn't yet done. I'm going to have to read it through to see if it makes any sense. But I end up falling on the other side of it in that, just like when you say, okay, it puts an idol into play and an enemy can find it. That's true, but he also could find it, or one of his allies could find it. So you play it, use it, save someone, and get it back again. I mean, granted, you can't count on that, but I just think, I mean, he's conveying to his alliance that his block, that he is willing to do anything to keep them collectively in the game, which is an incredibly powerful thing to do when it comes to consolidating your power and your status within it. I think he is, Stephen is bound to him at this point. Stephen has the advantage, and again, Stephen becomes a threat. I don't think Jeremy is under any illusion that he isn't already going to be a target, but he needs to keep viable targets ahead of him, and Stephen can be that person. Joe can be that person, and if you can get down to Final 7, I think he's got enough of a lock with the Kimmy, Tasha, who was the fourth, Spencer group, that I think he feels like if he can just get a couple of notches down the path with one idol in his pocket, that he can ride the rest of the way. And so I think he was willing to wager that one idol. Plus, he also gets an endgame resume move on, that he can present later, rather than passively sitting on two idols that he, may or may not have to play in a dramatic fashion later.
So my thought is, aren't these blocks? Are they sub-alliances, or are they blocks, or aren't they just concrete alignments? They're people that you're going to vote with going forward, that you want to lock up with it and not make any real changes. Because when Jeremy played the idol, Tasha voted for Fischbach.
Yep.
So how blocked is that block if she didn't even vote with them? I mean, Jeremy didn't trust her enough to even tell her what he was going to do. They could have gone after a bigger fish. They could have gone after, somebody else besides Sierra. I mean, Sarah was a good fish to go after because she was going to work with anybody. But at the same time, Tasha did not vote with Jeremy, I think, the previous 2 rounds.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, the blocks, they're certainly trying to present them as being this unified group that, they can keep pivoting, but there are pieces that keep spiraling off. And obviously, the deeper you get into the game, the more a block looks like an alliance, but you're also getting to that point in the game where, people are going to, we can get into it, but the whole, Spencer realizing exactly where he stands, that's the language of an alliance, not a block. That's the right. I'm fourth in this block. Well, that block has suddenly become an alliance. Right. And so, but, I think Tasha is an interesting outlier in that she has made a lot of very self-interested moves, I think largely because she's keeping all of her options open. Strangely enough, she's in such an incredibly strong position right now, and we're still sitting around waiting for her to do that thing that she needs forgiveness for, that they keep reminding us that she's going to need forgiveness for. She's not, other than some contention with Cass, there hasn't been anything. So there's got to be something big down the road that she's going to do that is going to make people raise an eyebrow. But she's in a position right now, where she's not really anyone's concern.
I don't want to belabor this too much because we've got other stuff to talk about. But say me, you, Steve Helling, and Dwayne are in a block. And we've gone a couple episodes here, which is how we talk about it. They talk about weeks, I guess, or 3 days. But in one episode, you and Dwayne and Steve vote out my closest friend, Survivor B. But you don't tell me, but you never told me this, but we were a block. So you vote, like Wiggs got voted out, and Kimmy was surprised. So then the next week, I decide, well, I didn't like that. I'm going to vote against Dwayne because you and Steve and I think are getting tight, but at the same time, I'm going to join this group, vote against Dwayne. To me, the 4 of us are not playing in the same blocks. We're not using the same size Legos. But that's what I love about this season. It can flip. Like Spencer said, you come back from tribal, it's a different game, it's a different tribe. You really don't know what's going to happen in each episode, and that's what's made this season so great, is that each episode can change. These people are smart enough and savvy enough and have good enough communication skills that they can flip the game at any tribal council. Jeremy flipped it by saving Steven. Actually, he flipped it by voting out Kelly. That was a blindside, on several people that he supposedly worked with. And then the next round, he saved Steven against the entire tribe just about, and knocks out Sierra. So to me, these blocks aren't as perfectly squared as they should be, which I think is great. These people are really having to survive and play their best game. It does look good in his resume that he stuck his neck out, and for all they know, the only idol he's ever had. he gave it to a friend to keep, a close friend. But it also shows who Jeremy's number one was, versus now Spencer's not with him. Kimmy could go either way. Tasha seems to be with Jeremy, but maybe just because she got a reward, it's really Jeremy could be on his own, or we're not seeing the edit where Jeremy's got 3 people really locked in to want to work with him again.
I think it definitely said Steven is my number one. I mean, it definitely put the light on that for sure.
Although I would hesitate to, yes, I think it did let people know that Steven was valuable to him, but I do think, you can spin that. I'd be fascinated to know if Jeremy spoke with Tasha later and said, I'm keeping Steven in here. It's not just everybody there knows that he and Steven talk a lot, but he can sell it as, I'm keeping him and his advantage in the game, so that we as a group can use that advantage, and Steven becomes a target before we become a target.
Okay, fair enough.
Again, Tasha is in such an interesting spot. It's funny how I think they are collectively exhausted playing this uncertain voting block kind of game, because she was trying to redefine it at Tribal Council, saying that, Jeff, I think the whole block thing has come to an end. Now it's about trust, and now it's about who you can really have faith in. And it's both interesting that she said that, because she's trying to define the game in a different way. It's also interesting that production and the edit decided to show us that, because does that mean this is what's going to happen, or does it mean that she is going to say that only to give herself room to maneuver so that she can start doing the things that she needs forgiveness for? I keep coming back to that, but I think we're in for something at some point, and I'm beginning to wonder if that might center around some of the people who are endgame threats for reasons like, say, a Kimmy. You get Kimmy close to the end. She has family who could really use the money. If you gut her right near the end, that's the kind of thing you need forgiveness for.
Yeah.
I feel like we're playing point counterpoint, because in the next episode, Fischbach does reveal his advantage to Spencer and what he's going to do, and it just goes back to what Tasha said that you just said. It's coming down to trust. And I think Fischbach was having the episode of his life where he won reward, got to go out and eat and relax, and then Joe lost. He's on such a high that he feels like he's really in control at that point, and I think that's when Spencer said, no, you can't be in control of this game, because if you get this vote, Joe goes, then you are in control of this game, and we can't have that. So it's almost like you said, Jeremy going to Tasha, whether before or after, with his plan of the idol, but Steven goes to Spencer, who he thought he could trust, and no.
Yeah, it's a fascinating, the dynamics of that betrayal, just because, one of the fascinating pieces about returnee seasons is that there's just more history. It's not just in-game promises between Spencer and Steven. It's not just pre-game alliances where they may have talked before they went out there, but it's also they have a pre-established relationship. They know each other. You have Steven being a know-it-all. You have Spencer being rap man of the year or whatever it is, Mr. Survivor. So they have a lot of connections there. But it's interesting. It seems like Steven ended up taking Spencer for granted, saying okay, I'm going to take Tasha because I need to smooth that over, and I have to take Jeremy because he saved my life in the game, but that's trusting Spencer to go back to camp to keep an eye on everything, and Kimmy to go back and keep an eye on everything, without taking into consideration that Spencer may read more into those three going, and Kimmy being clearly a member of that group, that he's very much on the outside, and he needed just as much coddling as Tasha did. But that's not how Steven necessarily saw it. But it's also made complete sense for Spencer, because he had to do it then. Because if you don't take him out then, you end up with those four, Steven, Jeremy, Tasha, Kimmy, representing 4 out of the 8 remaining players,
you're
not going to be able to break it, and you're always going to be on the outside of it. You can't wait one more round. He had to do it when he did it, and no doubt it stung a lot, but Spencer did what he had to do, and it was a good move.
You're exactly right, because if he lets it go and they go after Joe, then it's even 4-4. And that includes Abby and Kelly with Keith and Spencer. But I was talking about earlier using the perfect time to use the advantage. Spencer picked the perfect time to take out the advantage, and take it out of the game. And I thought it was a brilliant move.
Well, now, remember, all this was tried the episode prior as well. You know, and I'm just saying, Jeremy saved Fischbach the first time. So this has been an ongoing effort to get rid of Fischbach.
Yeah, and again, I keep pointing, stressing this, but I think the advantage was a major topic of conversation all the time. They wanted that thing gone, particularly when they didn't know what it was, but once they did know what it was and they saw, these are smart people. They're playing out the permutations and iterations and seeing, okay, how does that play out if it's still in the game at 6, if it's still in the game at 5?
Right.
And they're like, we need to get it gone now. And obviously, I think Jeremy would know that. He knows the game through and through. And so he's saving Steven knowing that they're going to keep coming for Steven. And as long as they're coming for Steven, they're not coming for him yet.
Right.
And if you can keep Steven in there, use the advantage to get one more round, why wouldn't he?
Yeah.
The one piece of this that I still, it's like, does Jeremy want to strangle Steven for this? But why win that reward at all and create the problem? All you did was out them. I understand they want food. I understand that life has been pretty awful out there, but they just got their shelter fixed, and you're just and Steven knows this. Like, you don't. Rob C is the biggest person for just harping on this point.
Yeah,
that you don't win those rewards, and in this particular case, you don't even want to get picked because it's a 3 to 6 split.
Right.
And one person I would love to ask a question of is Spencer, because he came in second and very narrowly lost. Like, why are you two, of all people, trying to win this thing? And I wonder, like, Spencer got a late question wrong. Was he trying to throw it so someone else would win it? I don't know. And my whole thrust of my column this time is giving them the benefit of the doubt. They had to have their reasons. They're too smart not to. And so why? He clearly, Steven, thought he needed to take care of Tasha, but you're just creating a dynamic where you have 5 people. Okay, maybe Kimmy forgives you. Jeremy would be ticked if you don't take him, and you know that both Tasha and Spencer are a bit on the fringes of your alliance, so you can't take everybody.
Yeah.
So what are you doing?
Yeah, I was surprised when they started the whole challenge. I was like, well, surely the winner gets to take 2 or 3 people. Do not win this.
Yeah.
Unless you're Keith, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. You let one of those people win it, and you just wonder, is there some weird pressure from Probst basically saying or not saying it, but implying, like, don't throw this thing, even though it might be in your interest to.
Right.
Or if they're also, continuing to play for a third chance out there because, it's certainly a death knell to your chances if you're not giving Probst what he wants, and if you're throwing challenges. It's such a visual and awesome reward, or challenge, just having the fire and having it at night, and it's so old school, so amazing. But to have people then walking. All of them walking and trying to throw it, that would just be awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at the same time, Dwayne's favorite player, Abby, got it right because she walked and didn't come close to winning. And also, Probst talks, even in his articles and interviews, like, food for the challenges. Well, Fischbach, Jeremy, and Tasha got blown out in the next challenge. It had to do with feet and keeping your bottom on a balance on a stool. So, it was what it was. Maybe he rekindled something, but I think it's tough. Steven didn't get 1 vote until he got the advantage. And Jeremy and I understand what you're saying, keeping somebody else around, like Joe, it gives you 2 shields. Steven the threat and Joe the threat. Keep them around another round that's still not you, as long as it's somebody but me. But at the same time, that might have been a chance for Jeremy to make bonds with Kelly and Abby. and pull them in with Kimmy and Tasha and say, you know what, this guy has put a big threat on him. I don't want to be around him anymore. I'm ready to get rid of him. I don't know. Just so many different opportunities that could have come from it.
Well, I want to say I loved that challenge. They ought to do more nighttime challenges because that was a really great challenge.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'd be curious to know. I mean, I've written about it in the past, wanting to have more night challenges, and you have to assume that there are production reasons to not do it. That it's just harder at night and having the crew out there and whatnot. But it's just such. Flame is just so evocative, and it's beautiful when it's filmed right. And I don't know. There was that one shot. I think it might have been Steven running by, and there were firelight around him, and there were some bugs in the air. It was. Yeah, it's just it's memorable. It's beautiful, and you also get the players off guard because they're expecting day challenges at this point, and you're just throwing them a curveball. Like, you don't want players being able to plan for everything.
Yeah, I think Durham Warrior Survival Challenge ought to have an eviction the first night with a night challenge.
We did do a night challenge. It's called Run Through the Woods and Break Your Neck to Get to the Fire. You're not sure exactly where the fire is, but you can see. So, what I also loved about that challenge was Kelly finding an idol clue.
Oh, that was cool.
I mean, I like small moments where players admit that luck is part of the game.
Oh yeah.
Because it's I had this immediate contrast to, there was a moment in Karamoan where Reynolds found an idol, and he's standing there on the path showing it to the camera and saying, "I'm just amazing at this game." And it's like, you were lucky, dude. You found it, and you just have no clue. And I guess it's Kelly had a clue, but it's just she got lucky and she knew it. And luck is just a part of the game, and it's going to make it fascinating because, and again, I'm right in the middle of writing this part in my column, but that idol and Jeremy's idol heading towards a confrontation at Final 7 is going to be fascinating. Mm-hmm. And what petrifies me, and really should petrify everybody who was in the game at this point, is that Abby might once again be the swing vote. And this is a perfect example of why you get Abby gone a long time before now, because plans are going to be hinging on her. And you just can't trust, like, every person who has tried to work her has gotten burned at some point down the road. And Kelly is possibly the next person on that list.
No.
Like, she managed to and did it beautifully, and then reinforced it at Tribal. We saw that little moment where she turned to Abby and essentially says, "I told you." But it's not easy to keep Abby happy. It's whoever makes her the latest, greatest, best promise.
Well, okay, all right. We're not going to have our Abby argument.
Oh, why not? When Steve was here, you all had your Wigglesworth argument. Come on. No, I have this strange feeling that those two idols are going to meet at the same tribal council.
Oh,
because the numbers are getting so low.
Yep.
I just have this strange feeling. We only got 3 shows left. We still got multiple tribal councils, but still, I just have a feeling it's going to come down to control. And when one gets played, the other one's probably going to get played too.
Yeah, no, I think you're right that you're going to have 2 people. I mean, because the idols are held by people who are going to get targeted. Who are going to be seen as the head of their groups. And I think Final 7 is when it happens, and I think, again, Abby is in the middle, and she's going to start doing what she does and saying, well, I don't know yet, and I'll make up my mind at Tribal, and so everyone will be primed to play their idols, and she'll be that vote in the middle, and you're going to end up with 2 idols being played, possibly at Final 7, no votes counting, and then and so the 2 people who played the idols and the person who has the necklace, those 3 people are safe, and the other 4 who had no business being targeted at all, one of them ends up going home.
Sounds like a fun episode to me.
I know, it's total fan fiction, but, it's fun to think about. But I do think that Abby is going to end up being pivotal because you have people like Tasha and Jeremy and Kimmy who are pretty much in lockstep. And you've got Kelly working with Keith and now Spencer. And so Abby is the only one real wild card in all of that.
And isn't it fun to watch Wildcards? I mean, who wants to watch a pagonging? Nobody. We always complain about pagongings, and now you have someone on the island that puts people in awkward situations and all kinds of great stuff, and it makes for an exciting show, fun to watch.
No,
that's to me.
Anybody who thinks that the peak of humor is to call someone poopy pants.
Well, she never said that was the peak of humor.
She said it once.
That was her attempt.
And it was immediately dismissed, like whoever she was saying it to sort of looked at her like, oh, that's not appropriate. Come on now. And then she said it again. Like, I knew who you were talking about. I just wasn't going to acknowledge your awful humor. And then she repeats it because she thinks it's awesome.
It's going to get on the edit. It's going to get there.
Obviously, I'm not a fan, but I would rather see like that swing boat, that person in that 7 spot, being somebody who will listen to offers on either side and make a decision that is less, I guess, emotion-driven and less about being coddled than it is about. I think we can probably all agree right now, like, she has 0 chance to win the game. Are we all in that spot?
Yeah, I don't think she could win.
Okay, so she's earned herself into that spot of, okay, I'm going to get to choose kind of who gets to move forward in this thing, make me feel good about it, make me feel wanted. And that to me isn't Survivor. That's just, she's...
The person you're talking about, who you enjoy watching and I enjoy watching, was the last episode, and it was Spencer. Spencer could have gone in both groups, and he made that decision and led that charge to get rid of Steven. And that's what I want to see, how I want to see it played.
See, y'all are like wanting this game to fit into your own little mold. This is the way Survivor should be. No. And these are the players who
fit into my mold, so I have to have something else.
These are the players who deserve to win because of the way they're playing and all this kind of stuff. And I'm telling you, I enjoy Stephen Fischbach. I enjoy Spencer, but I also enjoy me some Abby Maria. I think it all makes the show fun to watch.
I would never say anyone deserves more than anybody else because that word doesn't belong in Survivor. But I will say that the idea that someone like Abby, I don't think she should be cast in the first place. When I genuinely believe, and this was something I got into before the season started, in general, the whole idea that I think when you cast people that you know from the beginning they have 0 chance to win, that just seems wrong-headed to me. And I don't, people want entertainment, or they wanted Shane to be on this season, where it's like, okay, volatility and being a wild card, she is such a negative person that I don't think she brings anything positive. She creates an unstable element, but I think you can get that without needing someone who is quite so distasteful.
Casting Abby is like casting a twist into the game, because she can flip the game because of an emotional reaction in a matter of one show.
Which really helps Okay, I'm not going to get the last word. I will just say we agree to disagree.
Okay.
Because I really like Abby being on the show. And that's not the last word. That's just me saying my opinion.
Okay.
All right,
Love you, Abby.
So going back.
My wife can't stand Abby being on the show, by the way.
I was really holding my breath when that idol clue was shown in that challenge, which I think we all agree was a great challenge. But if I had a feeling, I started looking at who could get it, what would happen, what would change. I stopped looking at the challenge. I started thinking about the next step as to who gets the clue. And if Jeremy got it, to me, I saw Tony run to the end. If he gets his idol back and gets in control again, he could easily be in the minority again on the tribal council and take out a big player like Spencer or Joe. But I love that Kelly found it. Of course, I love that Kelly fan. I'm a Kelly fan, but I loved the challenge she had of getting it. I thought it was 1,000 times better than the challenge Jeremy had to take a stroll in the middle of the night to go get his idol. To me, and I think it was Pittman that agrees with me. I think he wrote that it was quite a drastic difference between the two idol retrievals. I thought their setup to her to find the idol was brilliant. To put it underneath there because she had to do it in front of everybody or away from everybody.
Yeah, no, I think for her, one, just make a mental note if you're ever on the show, anytime production visits your camp to fix anything, go and check it. And two, I think I really do wish that there had been more clues to that idol. I think I wrote about it last week. To the one that Jeremy got, because how interesting it would be if 2 or 3 people are in camp waiting to sneak away to find that thing. Then it becomes a little more intriguing rather than what's the big deal? He's stumbling through the dark and then has this moment, but it wasn't even set up or shot in any way to make it seem, I guess, theatrical. It's just hanging from a string.
Right.
And he can barely see, and so it wasn't all that interesting to look at.
How about hanging it above Keith? That would be interesting.
It would be covered in spit.
like the clue says, at some point during the night, above Keith's head will drop an idol. You have 10 minutes to get it.
I'm just trying to picture like if Keith had found the clue and was going on the idol hunt, and he sees the torch and he sees the necklace. Like, is it below the hanging shiny thing? Is it near it? Or
I could see him picking up the torch and going looking for it somewhere else. Can I use this to go find
it? Exactly.
All right. So what about Keith being on the game? Right? So you don't like Abby being in the game because you never know where she's going to go. Well, what about a guy like Keith who's basically just a chameleon? Whatever part of the beach he's sitting on is what he is. You're okay with him playing?
I'd prefer that he didn't, but he's a more benevolent, personality and spot in the game, and it's just, he can contribute a little bit of humor in confessionals. I mean, clearly he's a non-entity. Like, when you make the selfish choice and then nobody is thinking about taking you out, what's going to take that guy out of the game at this point? Nobody takes him seriously. He has been, categorically by everybody who's in the game, they've decided he can't win.
All right.
But he's not mean-spirited, and you get those moments where he can be hiding underneath a tarp and talking about how cruises are fun, right, and golfing is fun, but Survivor's not fun. It's a little levity to lighten things up. But I prefer people who have a genuine chance to win to play the game.
Okay. All right, let's talk about this whole White Rock, Black Rock thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like the whole, well, you were selfish. And Probst even tried to make a big deal about it in the tribal council. You mean someone who was selfish could go home? And Sierra and Tasha both talking about, well, I was hoping everyone would be unselfish. But darn well that Joe has no option but to play in this. And then all Keith had to say, which he didn't think of this, is, I knew Joe wasn't going to compete. I knew Joe was going to compete, and somebody's got to compete against him. So I'm trying to get Joe out, which, of course, he says a lot. But why not just say that instead of saying, I'm Mr. Competitive? So I actually brought up 2 things there, but I don't like the whole selfish versus unselfish thing and how that supposedly makes you a better player and all this kind of stuff. Anyway, there you go.
Yeah, no, I think for Joe anyway, he was going to compete. I don't think anyone was going to hold it against him. I don't care, how much paranoia that Probst would try to drum up. No one was ever going to hold it against Joe because he was right. He was going to go home if he didn't do it. And I think someone like Keith, it's just the fact that he was willing to, if a few other people had thought just like him, then suddenly, they're at risk of being in that shelter and being freezing for the rest of the game, suffering the rest of the game, and it's just that's the kind of thing. Like if you legitimately want to win the game, it's a human game in the end. And if you're staring down that jury and you're one of the ones who chose to make them suffer for the whatever length of time they were still in the game, and then you're sitting next to someone who didn't, that could cost you $1 million.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Of course, it stopped raining, so.
They're in the rainy season, so I'm sure it's not over yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, Faith put this question on our Facebook page. It's got a lot of answers, and my immediate reaction was to compete. Of course, I'm not out there. I'm not going through what they're going through. And then I had to edit my absolutely compete because it depends on the situation. I liked Andy's reasoning. He wrote later on, I think it was this morning or last night, that he said he would rather have an opportunity to talk to more people. So give me a shelter where we can get out from. Our Andy right here.
Oh, okay.
He said, give me a shelter that we can get out from. Maybe the weather's better and I can start talking to people because you can't do any talking when everybody's sitting together. But I mean, if I've got my Tawadi group of 5 strong, it's only 5 of us left, and there's 3 others, then yeah, I would say we get shelter because we're still going to take out one of the other 3 that's left in the game. But if it's but this season is really every week it seems like it's 1v1v1v1v1v1v1. You don't want to take that chance and be the one that gets voted out. You're offering yourself up to be voted out. Unless you, like I said, with Steven having the advantage. He's offered himself up to be voted out. So, I mean, I agree that there's hardly anybody who's going to beat Joe at this challenge, but you never know what can happen at a challenge. It only takes one slip, one false movement, and it could happen. But it would really depend on the situation. But to me, I'd be 60-40 more to compete and try to win the challenge just to ensure myself not going home.
Sure, although, I mean, you have to wonder how many people... how much of the conversation about targeting Steven was sort of already in the books, like we know that that's the direction we're going to be going, and so we need this shelter just for sheer humanity's sake, so that you're feeling like, okay, don't need to win this challenge, and probably won't win this challenge. Why not seem selfless?
Right.
So Joe winning because he's just seemingly amazing at everything, not a big deal because he's not really the target anyway.
Right. Which they apparently were talking about that for several days anyway. So
which brings up my other question that I put in the Facebook group, that Joe, to me, is starting to seem less and less like a sure thing to win, depending on who he's sitting with. In fact, there's more people that I think out there that can beat him now than can't beat him. I mean, he's winning challenges. He's a super nice guy. He's a provider. But if there's 1 or 2 other people of that group that's there, he isn't necessarily a lock to win.
I think that's probably right, but at the same time, I don't think it makes any difference. In that, I think they're still going to target him as soon as they can. Because he could potentially disrupt other plans.
He can control, right, with that auto, he can control the vote have a little more control over the vote.
Yeah, he can shape the vote, and he can win a challenge when you really don't want him to. Like if you have a group of 5 and you've taken out a few other people, or and if he's wearing the necklace at the wrong moment, it can throw things off. He also could become that person. He, like you're saying, if people start seeing him as somebody who can't win, all he is a challenge beast, the deeper you get into the game, the more valuable he is as a GOAT.
Right. Yeah.
And so they're going to choose to take him to the end over you, and you're going to have a hard time getting rid of him because he's a challenge beast. You're going to have to get him gone.
Yeah, I only really thought he was a sure thing to win if he won his way to the end. Kind of like a Mike did. He won his way to the end.
Yeah, earlier in one of the rewards, Tasha was saying, if you go with, was it talking about Joe at that point? Earlier in a reward, she was saying if you go to the end with Joe, he's going to win. Or was Joe at that challenge?
Well, I'd say that to everybody. Yeah. If I was in Durham, I'd say, if you go to the end with David, he's going to win. You got to vote him off.
Well, yeah, just like Sierra. Sierra's always talking about somebody that's not standing with her at the time.
Right.
Yeah, you just wonder, like, these small moments, like, are people going around camp saying, if you go to the end with Keith, he's going to win? Like, I mean, at what point do you strain credibility and plausibility where it's just like, you totally shouldn't, you need to vote Abby out right now because she gets to the end. Look over at that jury. She's definitely going to win.
All right. It's Keith, Abby, and Kimmy, the final three.
But see, in that case, I mean, I think when it comes to goats, I think, Abby and Keith are really the only ones left. Because everyone else has some sort of claim and connections on the jury where they have an argument to make. I don't think Keith and Abby really do.
All right. What's another topic you want to hit, David?
Let's see.
You said you had topics.
I did, and we're hitting a few of them.
Well, we're almost at an hour, so let's kind of round out at an hour, and then we can get on the feedback and.
Well, I hated the foot challenge, by the way, because I could not do that.
Yeah, you couldn't. Yeah, poor Fischbach.
I know.
Well, I'm not winning this one.
It's one of those things where it's not fun to watch. I'm sure it's not fun to compete. And it feels very much, although I know he isn't because Fierhofer's amazing, but really you're scraping the bottom of the barrel when you're just like, hey, what if they just use their feet? Like, I mean, it's just, okay. I mean, what are they doing? They're stacking blocks with their feet. I mean, we could call it the game's afoot. Isn't that funny? It's a great pun. Like, oh, God, everything about it is so awful.
We've renamed this challenge after Tarzan.
Wasn't this like when they first did this challenge? Weren't they like promoting it as Survivor First?
Yes, they were.
Yeah. The big Survivor First.
You know what? I like the mud collection challenge better than that challenge, where Tony and his group had to collect all the mud and get it into a bucket or something. I like that one better.
Oh well, I like that one anyway. That was cool.
Yeah.
We know why.
No, not at all.
Who else haven't we really touched on heavily here? So I guess the question for me at this point is something I'm struggling with myself, which is why I'm throwing this out at you, is who is it? I mean, I've been beating the drum of Kelly for a while, and just increasingly, Jeremy is putting himself in a position, although he just got flipped on, but
he just got outplayed.
He did. He got outmaneuvered, but at the same time, I think he was counting on Fischbach going in the next few anyway because of the advantage. Right. And so, yeah, he's a little vulnerable at the moment, but he still has Joe in the game as a potential shield, although Joe may be working too tightly with the other side. Mm-hmm. But he has one more idol, and he's got some people who are loyal to him. But at the same time, we keep seeing Kelly all over the edit. We keep seeing her commenting on things. She's got another idol in her pocket.
Yeah.
They seem to be the front runners.
I think Kelly has a better shot of winning than Jeremy does. I think Kelly has more people with her than Jeremy does. Jeremy's only got 2.
See, I actually disagree with you, and I hate to say that because Kelly was my pick, but to me, Jeremy is the front horse leading the pack, and he keeps getting pulled back in the pack and doing it. But on the outside, there's Kelly, almost running by herself. Every time she finds an idol or gets in the right, she keeps putting herself on the right side of the votes. She's been voting pretty well. She's being included in those groups, and to me, that's a really big thing to be included in those conversations. But at the same time, what is she? If it's her and Jeremy, I think his resume is stronger. I think his jury friends are stronger. She was in the block of 3 to be discarded immediately. She was to be gone immediately, and only because these people started turning on each other were they not. She was supposed to go, obviously, but I don't know. I'm still pulling for it. I'd love to see her pull it out if she gets with the right people. But her and Jeremy are pretty tight. As much as she's done just as much in the underdog situation. So she's got as good a story too.
And notice they didn't split the vote between her and Joe. They did it between Abby and Joe. So right now she's not a target.
Right.
Yeah, no, she's put herself into a very good position. I'd love to see some raw footage of her social game because, she's taken herself from in a pretty precarious spot to, calling some shots and, not being on people's radar. Like, Abby, of all people, being targeted, I mean, I think that's a sign of just how volatile everyone thinks she is and that she's a viable other piece to take out. But as with all of these really smart players, it is not a mistake that we saw Tasha and Spencer having a conversation about endgame resumes. Mm-hmm. At that point, talking about how Sierra was trying to build hers, that everyone who is going to be who has some claim right now. Kelly's going to be under fire. Jeremy is going to be under fire. It's all the people who have made bigger, more overt moves, at least the ones that we've seen. They're going to be, it's very easy to make the argument among the other players, hey, they need to go.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're going to get to the end without both of them having to play their idols. The question is, how is that going to sort of shape who's left?
Yeah. All right. Why don't we talk about another topic of conversation all over Twitter, and that is Stephen Fischbach's split of his votes. Which, by the way, they were his votes. They were not his and Joe's. They were his votes.
Mm-hmm.
So,
you want to jump on this one, David?
Well, from what I've been told from all the extra interviews and clips, everybody's fairly confident Joe has an idol. And, of course, he's trusting in Spencer that Spencer's going to vote with them, and the split's going to work in their favor. It's just that, to me, it was Steven's best episode and his worst episode, where he got so confident and tight with people that he trusted the wrong people.
Right. So, he was going with the split vote. They were splitting the vote between Joe and Abby, and he was just going along with that, taking away one of the opponent's votes and then getting two more split votes in there. So, if they had all their voters that they thought they had, then it wouldn't have been a problem. But you're right. He thought he was with the 4 that got blindsided by the 5. So,
yeah, I mean, I find it interesting that people are obviously giving Stephen grief for splitting the votes. You have to, as Stephen has argued, you end up having to, when you're making big moves, you have to be all in. You have to trust the people around you.
Right.
And you can't give him a lot of grief in that, they created their own uncertainty by having played an idol, so the idol was back out there, and so Joe may have found the idol. But I mean, Steven's not in the game if that idol doesn't get played, so you can't really give them grief for that. My sense of it is, I mean, Joe was searching for an idol, and then whether it was intentional or inadvertent genius, Joe ended up hanging around with everybody and being completely calm.
Mm-hmm.
And making it seem like he's the one who found the idol.
Yeah.
And at that point, you have the numbers, you have this advantage, you're trusting the people that you're tight with. Why not split the votes just in case? I mean, one can quibble with the fact that he wanted Joe to be the one who voted Joe out, and so he had arranged so that he could put one vote on each player. Fine, it's theatrics, really for production and the viewer's benefit. But in the end, I think it just shows how much he trusted Stephen.
Sure.
I'm sorry, he's trusted Spencer.
Right.
That they were so tight, that they went back so far, and that whether they talked pregame alliances or not, these guys are friends outside of the game, and so he didn't think that Spencer would do that.
Right.
They were creating a big theatrical moment for everybody. Like, right. I'm playing this advantage, and this is what's going to happen, and isn't that going to be great theater?
Right. And ultimately, it wasn't the split vote that got him out of the game. It wasn't his split vote. It was the play before that. It was the play of the other players. It was Spencer. It was Kelly. It was them that got him out of the game. So he was playing the right move for what he thought was going to happen, but he was outplayed. As were the other.
I wonder if Tasha would have been okay with sticking with Jeremy if Fischbach had taken Spencer on that reward instead of Tasha, because Spencer was never buy on original. He was the other side, whereas Tasha was. And even though Tasha and Spencer voted for Fischbach the first time when the auto saved him, maybe he should have pulled in the extended alliance member and taken him on the reward just to keep somebody like Spencer away from the majority, keep him away from them and talk. My first thought is, like you said, don't win the reward. But if you do win it, take somebody away take Sierra away from that group. Take somebody away from that group that's going to align against you. I just wonder if it might have gone different if he'd have brought in Spencer. I don't know, because Spencer, I think, was really afraid of that advantage. But I just wonder if he'd have taken Spencer instead of Tasha, since Tasha I think, has kind of been with Jeremy the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, there's a million things that, we don't see. There's things, I think, that you could argue that they could have done about, who you take on the reward. You could have Steven talking to Spencer saying, look, dude, I am going to make it look like I'm with Jeremy, but you know me and my history with JT. I'm gonna gun him down. You're my number 2. Let's do this thing. Some assurances like that. Whether or not they would have been believed, I don't know. But bottom line, it was very clear, and perhaps it was unavoidable, because the 3 players who were buy on the entire time were Steven, Jeremy, and Kimmy. Right. And so those 3 were pretty much unbreakable, and Tasha seemed to be the 4th, which is reinforced by who you took on the reward. Spencer's going to feel on the outs unless you've gone to great lengths to show him that he's not.
Right. And so he reaffirmed the 4 and didn't reach out for the 5.
Right.
But in the end, the whole splitting of votes, Steven knew that he was going to be a target. He didn't have faith that he could pour all of the votes into Joe, and so he made the move that made sense. And sometimes it doesn't work out, but it's the kind of thing, like, casual fans are going to give people grief. And for another example, actually, since I mentioned him, JT and the move that he tried to make in Heroes vs. Villains. If that works out, if he ends up having read that situation correctly, then the second half of that game plays out totally differently. He just happened to read it wrong. And that's what Steven did. He read it wrong. But he had every reason to read it the way he did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was in a bad spot. He says at Ponderosa that during Tribal Council he got the sense that he was going. And I would think as soon as you left last Tribal Council, I would think you get the sense that you're going. But because if I'd have gotten saved at Tribal Council, I would have known I'm still the target. But still, he went in there. That's why it surprised me. Well, it doesn't surprise me because, like you said, he trusted. He thought he had Spencer. And it seemed like a last-minute thing that he told him, because Jeremy even said, we got to get this decided because we got to go. So we kind of got a time reference that they were close to getting on lockdown. So they had to finish up their discussion. And I don't know, Steven didn't have a chance to save himself in Tribal Council, because even if he had thrown both votes at Joe, he wouldn't have had the votes. So it's almost like he should have thrown them both at Abby and Maria to force at least a tie.
But he would have known that, but he had no idea.
No, he said he got a sense that he was going to go. He said during Tribal at Ponderosa, I had a feeling I was the one they were going to be voting for. So you're right. He didn't know if it was enough to get him out, but he also didn't know for sure, I guess, who he could trust. So if he'd have thrown his other vote at Abby Maria, it would have been a 4-way tie, right? Or a 2-way tie.
See, I think he thought he was only going to get 3 votes, or maybe 2, and so he wasn't afraid of Spencer.
Mm-hmm.
Spencer's the one that really threw him off.
Right. Yeah. Well, and again, that's sort of a deep-seated trust that they had, and I think honestly, Steven wanted to get that advantage out of his life. I think he wanted to use it. I think he wanted to make the move to make sure that Joe went home, and he, counted on Spencer to want Joe gone, but he also wanted to be able to say when they got back to camp, all right, now I'm just meek little Steven who's never going to win an immunity, and why would you ever gun for me? Now suddenly Jeremy catapults to the top of the list of people to target in his alliance.
Right. I'm just Hobbit Fischbach with the big feet.
Zombie feet.
With the giant feet.
That's what I thought his last ditch effort to keep Spencer in was him telling him about the challenge. I mean, about the advantage. I'm like, suddenly, it's like he held it in all this time, then he revealed it at reward, which I thought was okay because he was trying to solidify that threesome. Then all of a sudden he just tells Spencer. I'm like, wow. He told him pretty quick, but I guess that was him thinking that he had Spencer as well.
Well, and I think at that point, he's probably sensing that Spencer needs something from him to feel tight, but that should also make him a little bit worried. But Spencer, I mean, all it did was ramp up his anxiety and just confirm for him that he needed Steven gone. Because again, the deeper you get into the game with that advantage, and showing no signs of wanting to split away from Jeremy and Tasha, you can't let him sit on that thing because it'll just lock in the fact that he'll probably go fourth or fifth. And Spencer is the kind of guy who, if he goes out next, I mean, he'll care, but he'll have made the move to make it possible for him to win. And not to sort of overdo the Survivor as poker analogy, but there are pros who play in Texas Hold'em tournaments where they talk about there's a difference between the people who are playing to get into the money and people who are playing to win. And if you're playing to win, to be at that final table and win at that final table, you're going to have to take some pretty big risks. And that's what Spencer did. It's like he was working with them. There's no reason for the other side to truly trust him other than the fact that he just helped them. He's this free agent who has shown the ability and willingness to flip on people, which is not the best thing, character trait to have when people are looking for some trust at the end. But it's the all-in move. It's the thing that gets you to Final Four and you win that challenge and suddenly you're in the Final Three and maybe you win this thing.
I tell you what, it's this season is a whole lot better than those seasons where we get to the merge and the next 6 episodes are the other tribe going home. This is great. A lot of moving around and changing and people switching alliances, and it's great. So,
yeah, just everyone. It's the level of self-interest and the fact that so many different pieces are in play, that whether it's seasons that they played on with these people or it's the tribes that they've been on or whatever preseason deals that they had, so many moving parts that you can tell that they're coming into Tribal and they just the only people who are ever comfortable are the people who are wearing a necklace or people who have idols, and even they're still shaking in their boots a little bit.
Yeah.
This is why we should never have another fans versus favorites season, because these people, to me, would eat up new players.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
Like candy. I mean, this, like you said, they're playing 1v1. Every tribal council is different and can change.
Yeah.
So,
Andy, I don't know if you had a chance to listen to our last podcast. It was really long, so you might not have, but Troyzan was on there. And just a props to the Durham Warrior Survival Challenge. He said that he learned things during Durham Warrior Survival Challenge that he will take with him when he plays Survivor again.
That's awesome.
That will help him win the game.
I mean, I have to give him props. I mean, I liked him in One World just in that he was willing to say at Tribal Council, I think it was when they were at 7, he was pointing out, openly the bottom of the other alliance. But at that point he hadn't done the social game stuff he needed to do to be able to convince them to join him. But I was impressed with the social side of his game this time. They knew that they had to get him gone in Maine, and they were gunning for him before he suspected it. And being on the production side of things, it was fascinating to see what he was thinking versus what I knew was happening.
Yeah.
He's an engaging and charismatic guy, and I mean, frankly, for those players, one of the reasons why I think they really like coming to the DWSC is that it's practice. right? They get to test parts of their games out, and they got to see what they're made of. I think I may have told you both this, but one of the things that fascinated me about Dr. Jill was when I was rowing with her out to where her spot was. The way she was talking, it was clear like she was looking back at her first time playing and talking about how she was going to play it differently this time, and she was going to try some things out. Obviously, it worked out really well for her, but that's one of the draws for these people. The things that go on in Maine, it's legit, man.
Yep. All right, anything else about these episodes before we get to what our listeners thought?
What did you think about Stephen pointing out that Joe has not been eligible for a vote out for 29 days? Has that ever happened before?
That's a good question. I'd be curious.
I can't imagine somebody going that. I mean, his tribe never lost, so which means he'll be first pick in every schoolyard pick from now on. And then when they got to the merge, he won all the challenges till this point.
I'd have to look at what Tom Westman did. He's probably the closest, just in that his tribe never lost. They got to the merge. If he won the first couple of those immunity challenges, because I know he won some, he might have been free of attack there for a long stretch. But certainly, it's got to be way up there, and. It's one of the things that fascinates me where Joe didn't really have to play the game. He was playing the game, but he didn't have to play it. Right. When you're always playing from a position of strength and safety. That's why, I'd be fascinated to see someone like Tony Flacco's play again, because he played so much of that game with a few idols in his pocket that he didn't have to run scared. And it just changes how you play. And, granted, we just talked about the DWSC, but I'd be curious to play the game again. I had 2 idols in my pocket from day one.
Yeah.
And it affects how you play. It changes the risks that you're willing to take.
And the way you got taken out of Durham Warrior Survival Challenge just wasn't right.
Yeah. It happens.
That's why he joined the production side, to make sure it will never happen again.
That was my first order of business, actually, as John Batea can tell you, that everything has to be a vote out.
Yeah.
Tom's tribe lost on day 12, so they did go once, but he didn't go back to tribal again as an eligible vote till day 30. So almost the same.
Okay.
Because he won the first 2 challenges after the merge.
Oh, did they have a double? Is that what it was?
It might have been a double because it was on day 12.
Yeah, it must have been a double because they didn't lose. So he got a taste of it. But I obviously, as opposed to somebody else who might have been along for the ride with Joe during all the pre-merge challenges, Joe was instrumental in his tribe not losing. So I don't begrudge him being free from elimination stress until day 29. The boy earned it. But I find it fascinating that, Kelly, I think, even said in your Facebook group or somewhere, she said it was not a hard choice, maybe it was on Twitter, to keep Joe, to take out Steven. That's how afraid they were of the advantage. That's how not afraid of Joe they are. Right. But it was the perfect smokescreen, right? That Joe is vulnerable for the first time. Everyone needs to focus on him, and then you can operate, under the cover of the smokescreen and take out Steven. But I still do think that's my prediction for this week. I think you're going to see Joe go home. I think they're just not going to want that. Other people are going to want a chance at that necklace, and I think they're going to send Joe packing.
It showed him he was vulnerable. So, he's not perfect.
Nope.
He probably practiced that challenge at home, too, but he didn't win it this time.
All right. You ready to get to our listeners' thoughts?
And yes, it was a double tribal. They had 2 people go out, one from each tribe on day 12.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Oh, I know. Before we get to listeners' thoughts, how many episodes are left, and how do we think that's going to play out as far as people go home? How many people are going to start the final episode? Stuff like that.
we've got this, the 2nd, the 9th, and the 16th is the finale. I was beginning to wonder if this would be the case, but someone retweeted a tweet, and I don't know if you guys want to know.
Is this a spoiler?
I guess, no, but not really. I mean, there's no names attached to this other than a confirmation about the finale and how many players it starts with.
Okay, feel free to skip a minute ahead if you don't want to hear this.
Yeah. Because he has very enviable access to players talking about this sort of stuff. Redmond apparently tweeted out, it was retweeted to me, that 6 people are in the finale.
Oh, okay.
So we're just going to have a straight boot this week, a straight boot the next week, and start the finale with 6. Okay. And you can read all kinds of things into that. Are you going to have some pretty predictable boots? At 6 and 5. I mean, you have to get rid of 3 people before you get around to that final 3. It may mean that the final tribal council is truncated because it's pretty obvious who's going to win.
I know one thing it means: no walk of shame or walk of remembrance.
Yeah, Probst doesn't want the fallen comrades thing anymore. So I don't know. I guess I'm like one of the last people out there who kind of likes it.
It's either Joanne or Stacy on Survivor Fans Podcast likes it. I don't remember which one.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's just because I like traditions and having that piece of it. I think it's the look I see on a number of their faces. Like, some of them are just ticked off that they have to go on a hike. Yeah. But for some people, like David, you can speak to this, that these people go through something out there. Right? Right. It's 39 days for these people, or 38 at that point. And the ability to sort of think back about these people and what it took to compete against them, there's some emotion there. And again, I'm the unrepentant sap who loves the family visit, and I think we're in for some waterworks this week because
I get choked up just thinking about it.
Yeah, and it's a little bit like that, but it's a little more of the personal journey as opposed to the family piece of it. Fallen comrades, it's like you've spent over a month battling with these people, and you're right there at the end, and there's nerves, but there's a sense of achievement. I don't know. I like it.
Yeah. So I see Andy going through the fallen comrades like this. Yep, that's mine. That's mine. That's mine. I've got 7. Not that one. I got 7 people right here I took out for the merge. Okay. Keep going. That's my resume.
By the way, I'm thinking that a family member gets hurt, not a player.
Once again, can we tell people to skip a minute ahead? This is nothing huge, because again, I don't seek out
on EW.
That's just it, and it's because Probst talked about this.
Okay,
that nobody's getting concussed by anything. Somebody just quote pushes their body too hard.
Right.
And so, it could be a family member, although we're led to believe it's in that challenge, and we see a shot of that challenge, and it's immunity, and there's no family in sight. So,
well, there's only a couple of hands that could be.
Yeah.
So, okay. Yeah. All right. Well, let's get to listeners' thoughts because we're already an hour and 15 in, so we should get under the 2-hour mark if we start now because we got Mikko's challenge and some other fun stuff later on. So, David, I know you've got Lazarus Metcalf, so you can go ahead and read his feedback.
Okay. Hey, guys, Laz. Way too much to unpack for feedback, so I'll keep it short and to one point of debate. I do not dislike Abby, but her being on this season has really swung things for the worst for me. By CBS to be in the vote, by the fans to vote her in, and by the cast to not vote her out early. Abby pretty much was the crux for Vetus, PG, Varner, and Fish to go out. I'll leave the rest alone. Funny how Abby's unpredictable +1 led to the demise of nearly all of the strategy pulling players, and later he came back to say he also meant Shireen. It's part of that too. I understand she is fun TV for people like Dwayne, But for the game itself, not fun. However, great season, loving it. No personal dislike for Abby, but I do feel she ultimately brought this down from being an even more classic Survivor season. Still looking forward to the rest of the awesome season regardless. Lastly, should be interesting to see what Abby does. Ha.
All you Abby haters.
I like this Lazarus fellow.
Yeah. Whatever. I like you, Abby.
You know what? Abby is one thing, and I'm talking to some people in our chat room about how she votes emotional. She has no plan to win. I don't know if she has any idea to win. She just wants to be on TV, it seems like, and wants to stay there. But what is she doing?
Fair.
She's voting emotional. No, she's voting. I'm giving you my opinion, Dwayne. We have a podcast because we have opinions. And I'm telling you, from what I see, she votes on emotion. I don't see anything that she's doing that would lead her to win the game. It just seems like she's getting out people that she doesn't like, and I would rather see Carolyn play and know that she has a plan or has an idea how to get to the end. She wants to manipulate people and not try to guilt people or scare people or annoy people. That's just me.
Right, and you have every right in the world to wish that Carolyn was playing. What I don't agree with is someone saying, I don't think she's trying to win. Sure she is. She thinks she could win this. She may be delusional, but she thinks she can win it. I mean, you thought you could win Durham Warriors Tribal Challenge.
You're now comparing me to Abby, by giving us both the delusional title. You called us both delusional.
No. But I'm just saying, you can't say she's out there, but she doesn't want to win. I don't think that's fair to say that.
I'm not saying she doesn't want to win. I'm saying she doesn't have a plan to win.
Well, that's what you said, though. You said someone out there who doesn't want to win, who's just out there to mess people up and stuff.
Well, I would argue that it's somewhere in between, in that I think she goes into the game thinking, sure, I mean, I can win this thing. Anyone can win this thing. That's the promise of the show. But I think she reaches a point in the game where, and maybe it's not even till post-merge, when she looks around and she talks to people and see how people treat her, and it must sink in at some point, like, I'm playing out the string here, and I'm going to go out guns blazing. But at some point she ceases to play with a sense like, okay, I'm going to put together a strategy about how I can get to the end with people I can actually beat. And then her strategy becomes, be around because other people can use me. But, I've harped on this point before, but, there's zero reason why she was she should have been in the final 3 in Philippines. Should have been. There were 2 tandems and her. All she had to do was pick one of those tandems and go to the finals with them. She didn't because they couldn't stand her. They just couldn't deal with her anymore. And she's quickly, that's who she's going to be now. Like, this is somebody who, and I know it's one of the few times perhaps that I can see eye to eye with Probst, where you can see that he's befuddled with Abby. Like, does she know? Is there some cultural difference? It's just not sinking in. But when she says things to Joe like, yeah, just let me win this immunity challenge. You should let me win this immunity challenge. And Joe's like, no. And she is really offended by this. Like, did you genuinely think that he'd be like, yes? And you can tell, like, he's given up trying to be socially nice to her. He's just going to just be rude right back to her. She's, does she know at this point she is, she's drawing dead? I don't know that she does.
I don't think she does. I think that she, like a lot of people, feel like I have a chance to win it. You can't ascribe to Abby the way other people play. Abby is her own distinct player in the way she plays, and she probably thinks I have a chance to win it. I would have a good argument if you took me to the end.
Did you expect anybody to play the same that they did their first season in the season? Did you expect them to, either of you? Did you? That's what I'm looking for, is people to adapt and play different. I don't think Abby's doing anything different than she did the first season, other than somebody told her to stop talking for about 3 weeks.
Yeah, well, I think she bit her tongue in the first 3 days of the game, but you can't hide who you are. And I think people can take different strategic approaches, consider different people to work with, but we are who we are. And, she is someone who takes things personally.
Yep.
I think she's somebody who plays a little wounded sometimes. But if she genuinely thinks that she still has a chance to win the game, that she can look around at who is left in the game and think that there's some permutation of a final three that favors her, then that's just proof positive that she doesn't understand the game. And more proof why I would prefer to not see her there. That said, she's going to play again. I mean, she gives the production a piece of something that they want. Like you said, Dwayne, she's distinctive. I think she's distinctive for the wrong reasons, but she's distinctive. People remember her. I'm writing this in the column, but I just recommend to anybody who plays this game in the future, finds themselves on a returnee season, and she's there, vote her out as soon as humanly possible. You're not going to be able to control her, and at some point you're going to find yourself on the wrong end of the Abby stick.
I would not want to play with Abby.
Oh, God, no.
On the game. Absolutely not.
That's like keeping Steven in the game. At some point, his advantage would go against you, because you're never going to be together till the end. At some point, somebody's got to turn. But if she gets to the point, or if I was at the point where I looked at the other four people and said, wow, I can't beat any of these people, then yeah, I would do whatever I could to make sure I was with the two in the end, just to get to the end to either finish third or at least state my case as to why I got there. But I just don't. Just my opinion. I just don't see her doing anything strategically. She's trying to call in poopy pants because it's going to be on TV. She's laying in the I wonder if production went over to her and said, Abby, we need some more shots of you in the hammock, winking at Kelly so Kelly could go to her idol. Let's go over to the hammock and we'll get a few more shots. And I'm thinking, Kelly, just drop your buff through the shelter and say you dropped your buff below the shelter. They crawl under there and get your buff. I'm trying to think of any way to get her underneath there to get that idol. I don't know. I just show me something that Abby's doing. See, right now we're getting a lot of confessional from Kelly, but it's about finding the idol and wanting to flip the game and change the game. What are we getting from Abby? I mean, where's the side of Abby saying, I've got to work with so-and-so. I've got to get so-and-so to agree with me. I need to find two people so-and-so to do this.
Well, Again, y'all are trying to ascribe to her the kind of play that y'all like to watch, or that y'all think people should have to do.
How's she going to win?
To win the game.
Tell me how she wins the game.
I'm not saying she could win the game. I'm just saying.
You're just saying you like watching the type of player that she is.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I am saying that, but that's not what I'm arguing right now. Y'all are saying stuff like she says poopy pants so she can be on TV. I don't think she did that. I just think that's her personality. She was just trying to laugh with the people around her, and it was a joke that fell on deaf ears. They didn't laugh at it, and she wasn't socially aware enough to realize that she didn't need to repeat it. But I don't think to say, Abby's not playing the game because she's not trying to come up with the final three. Well, you don't know that. They're not showing that, but she may have her own way of figuring out how to get a final three. Maybe she's just trying to survive. And right now she's trying to survive by who am I going to trust? Am I going to go with Kelly and with Spencer, or am I going to not trust Joe and I'm going to vote against Joe? So she's trying to make those decisions so that she can stay longer in the game because she doesn't think her game is over.
Well, I will agree in the sense that she has a strong sense of self-survival, but I think don't be so quick to say that it's because we don't like the style of game she plays. There aren't rules, but there's the whole outwit, outlast, outplay, and she's not outwitting anybody right now. She's waiting till they come to her. She's very passive about it, and yeah, she's outlasting, but there's not a lot of playing and not a lot of winning going on.
I believe someone that won twice won by letting people come to her.
Not entirely.
I'm just saying that there's different ways to win the game, and I'm not saying Abby's gonna win the game. I'm just saying you can't say that she's a non-player because she is playing.
Well, I would argue that, Sandra's approach and her personality and the style in which she plays, that, you run seasons 1,000 times, her name is gonna ping, in first place a number of times.
Oh, sure.
I think Abby's. I think the only time that she would win is when a typhoon hit and took out the other 19 players in a catastrophic, just injury-plagued season. Like, I don't see that her approach to it is an approach. It's who she is under those circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
And she is simply... And I think she's there to endure. But anyway, I don't want to keep harping on it because I am now doing the very thing that I give her a hard time for, being sort of negative, and I don't want to be that.
Well, I just want to ask Dwayne never to put Abby, Maria, and Sandra in the same sentence again. Please don't do it. But the chat room wants to know why we're not complaining about Keith not playing to win the game.
Well, I believe I asked that earlier.
At least from Keith said surviving is the game. Trying to survive this game. He's trying to survive the elements, but at the same time, Keith is not poking anybody. He's not trying to hurt anybody. He's sitting back. To me, he's playing a very under-the-radar game, not trying to stand out too much, and trying to find the vote to be with the vote whoever's going to keep him safe.
That's exactly what Abby's doing. How is that not what Abby's doing? She's trying to stay alive and figure out who she needs to vote with. What?
No. It's as I have said. In the past, it is a social game, and she socially.
Oh yeah, she's not as good socially. No,
she is awful.
Yeah, I know
and
that.
So Keith befriends people, and Keith, I'm sure, like, he came into the game saying, I only have to tweak a few things. He sees himself as a competitor. Like, I'm going to compete in challenges. He did really well in San Juan del Sur. He is going to get to the end and be like, I didn't, if you want to be a bitter jury and throw votes my way because, I was always good, nice, friendly Keith, then do that thing. But he's not, Abby in a social game, they would laugh at her. The jury would laugh at her. They would laugh with Keith.
I'd rather watch Keith watch the crowd and make a vote with the majority than Abby, who wants to vote Woo because he voted against her one time. That's what I would rather watch Keith play the way he's playing versus Abby the way she's played, especially in the beginning. But we can get off this topic now if you want to get off this topic.
Okay. All right, my turn. It is time for a feedback from, I don't know their name. It's CPPETZOLD. Each season, the background music gets louder. It is very annoying when you cannot hear the conversations because of the music. This season sounds louder than ever. We have watched the show for many years, but it is not enjoyable when you can't hear what is being said. I think this person thought they were emailing CBS. But I watched it. I didn't get to watch the whole thing again, but I watched a little bit. I didn't really notice that, so I'm not really sure. Maybe it could be TV settings or something. I know sometimes sometimes when I'm watching a football game on Fox or something, and I'm watching it not on HD, not on 5.1 surround, the crowd's too loud because they don't have it mixed well for like stereo or something. Maybe it's that, but I haven't really noticed the music being too loud this season. But no, obviously it is for this person.
Well, the one thing I will say about the sound though is that every now and again they're being pretty overt with some of their sound cues.
Oh, yeah.
Like this week, when there was a moment where Steven said, I'm feeling like I'm in a pretty good place or something like that. And granted, it was in the episode that Sierra went home, but when he said that, they augmented this thunderclap sound, and they added in a musical like boom underneath it, and it's just like, oh God, there's no way Steven is going to get out of this night without going home. It was just a little on the heavy-handed side, so I can understand though, like it can be frustrating at times. I haven't really noticed it recently, but there are times when it's just okay, either amp up their voices or give us subtitles because I really want to hear what they're saying in this moment.
Right.
it can get lost. But then again, I'm old, and I tend to put I put closed captioning on for just about everything. So
which doesn't work well on the Survivor show because they're always way behind.
Yes, they are.
Which you think they could like pre-do the closed captioning so that it worked, but you'll miss entire conversations when closed. So.
Absolutely.
All right, we have an audio feedback, and it is from Mere I Am White.
Hi, this is a first-time caller. This is @DaterGirl, also a longtime Facebook group fan. I wanted to thank you guys so much. I love you very much. My question is, do you think Jeremy Collins is the next Yul Kwon? Do you think his strategy is similar to the game in Cook Islands? Also, is Joe the new Ozzy? I don't think right now that maybe he is the challenge beast or the I have ADHD, sorry. I don't think he is the threat we think he is at the end game. The edit seems very similar. I just rewatched Cook Islands. Shout out to another show I watch. I won't shout out, but I just have been reading about the evolution of strategy, or listening to the evolution of strategy. Gee, I might need to re-record this. But I do think the shows are edits of these characters are very similar. This time I'm paying attention to the edits and what they show and who talks about them and everything that you guys discuss. And I do think there's somewhat of a winner's edit here. And I am very excited to see Jeremy Collins possibly be the winner. We have not had a very multicultural winner in a while, and it would be very great in this point in time. He's a great hero. He's a great role model, an excited family man. And, I love Joe, too, and I love Chaos Spencer. But Savage Beanie has to go. I'm glad it's out of there. I just wish it would leave the show. I just wanted to know what you guys think. Is this Cook Islands all over again? And will Joe make it to the end with Jeremy and lose by possibly one vote because Jeremy's strategy is better? Love you guys very much. Thank you for doing all you do. I would love to see you guys get more sponsorship. I think you guys could really do well. You guys deserve it. And you guys are #winning. Bye-bye.
Awesome. Thank you for the feedback. What do y'all guys think?
I would argue, Joe, I guess, is a little bit like Ozzy. I think he's more socially, he has a stronger overall game. I think he has, although don't underestimate, Ozzy got 3 votes up against Yul. If he had won that last challenge in South Pacific, at least the jury said he would have won. So, but getting to the Yule comparison, certainly I agree. Like, it'd be nice to. I think Jeremy would be a great ambassador for the show, a great winner. I don't know that we've had a winner, a male winner of color since Earl, which is a long time ago at this point. And obviously Natalie most recently, but on the female side. But could his? I don't know. I'd have to go back. I watched Yule's win not that long ago. And I think because he and Yao Man, particularly Yao Man, were just so telegenic that they were all over that edit. They were all over the story. And as a tandem, I think I would have expected. I don't think that Steven and Jeremy have gotten the same kind of airtime, probably because it's a returnee season and you have so many other stories going on, and you have. It's just like Kelly is giving us a lot of the strategic story, so is Spencer. And early on, you had Varner all over the place. And Jeremy there have been chunks of the story strategically that we haven't heard him weigh in on. And that just wasn't the case with Yule. But I think the comparison of Joe to Ozzy is probably the more apt of the two. But that's
I don't remember Yule being. I mean, I remember Yule being a target much sooner than Jeremy. It seems like he's just not being targeted right now, and he's been right on 3 of the 5 votes. I mean, he would have been right on Kelly, except she played her idol. So the only vote he's been wrong on was the Joe vote that went against Fischbach. So he's been on the right side of the votes where he's had to vote because he also voted out Monica. But I don't feel like we're getting an edit, and I would think we would. If he's our winner, we get more of an edit where he's in more control. I mean, he's been in on the conversations, and maybe that's his strategy, is to be part of the conversation and not lead the conversation. And if that's a strategy, then that's a good strategy, especially to continually be in the group. Because, I mean, he has been in on every conversation, it seems like, for all these correct vote outs. Even the Kelly one, which would have been right, except she had her idol. So he seems to be in the group, but we're not. To me, I always felt like Yule was sitting at the head of the table. That's just kind of how I remember that Cook Islands. I haven't seen it in a while. That's how I remember. But I can see the similarity that she's pointing out. In fact, I think that she said Vader Girl, right? At the beginning?
She might have, yeah.
Yeah, she's very active in our chat room.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Ponderosa.
Pondering Ponderosa.
Two Ponderosa videos, because 2 people have arrived at Ponderosa, and I'm just, oh, Savage. I mean, come on, Sierra. You know what? That's all I'm going to say is, oh, Savage.
Well, I found it interesting that Stephen was tweeting about Savage and his approach to Ponderosa, and you can give Savage all the grief in the world, but that he is 100% of the time always himself.
Yep.
And he is, he's wearing his emotions on his sleeve. And, he came around on cast. We saw that. It's just, it lets you know sort of how personally so many players take the game, and take everything deeply personally, and just can't help themselves. But that's part of the reason why they got cast, right?
Right.
You have these conversations with him, and I'm sure Savage, when he was being cast, that they got a sense of his ego, but they just got a sense of who he was and how he would react to disappointment, and he just is who he is.
Right. So one thing that you notice Sierra does that Cass did not do, and it worked out better for Cass than it did for Sierra. Sierra wants to get right in there and, okay, well, I want to talk about this. Well, I don't really want to talk about it. But, I really think we need to hash this out. Well, I'd really rather just sit here and eat my hamburger. But, no, I think we need to hash it out. Sierra, just chill out.
But that's funny because you would think that the people that have been there the longest are more calm down and ready to talk about things. As soon as somebody comes out of the game in Maine, I wanted them. I wanted to talk to them. I wanted to find out what was going on, what they were thinking. Savage has been there quite a few days.
Well, that's your person. Yeah, sorry.
And that's me. You're right. That's me. That's just the way I am about the game. And you're right. Savage just takes things personally. And maybe other people do too. But you're right. He didn't want anything to do with Sierra. Then again, she is one of the ones that knocked him out of the game. On the Idle Blonde side.
But that's like she's saying, it's a game.
You're out of the game, dude. Relax and talk.
See, you're not going to be the kind of person, and I don't know about Andy, but I would assume Andy, not the kind of person that is going to take what happened in the game and like be Mr. I'm upset with you and I'm not going to talk with you because of what you did to me in the game.
I was the first non-jury and non-finalist that I could think of that got to Wendy at the end of our game to hug her and tell her how proud I was of the decision she made to vote me out. Because I think that's what got her to the next level and got her to the. I love this game so much. It is a game, and I hate that I missed the jury. Right. I went to Ponderosa. It wasn't quite the same effect that I might have gotten to another one.
Yeah, I think you got some crackers and a bottle of water is what you got.
Yeah, but yes, I want to find out what other people are thinking. And it's a shame that you have that. Cass can't wait for more people to come in there and talk about what's going on. And I think it's partly to do that she wants to have some influence on the game. Because you're still in the game to a degree. And I know Andy Baker, when he got on the jury, he did everything he could to direct people in the right direction, point them in the right direction. But still, you're still in the game. You're still on TV. You're still online. Make the most of it and get involved. That's what I enjoy. The second most thing I enjoyed at Durham after playing the game was talking to other people in the game to find out what they were thinking and what they were doing. That was the second favorite thing.
Right.
Yeah, no, I find it gives you some clues, I think, psychologically about sort of who Sierra is, who Savage is. That she wants to talk, he doesn't want to talk, and it's also the psychology of someone who is fresh out of the game versus somebody who's had a little bit of time but just had the wound reopen. Like, okay, you're the one that I've been bracing myself that I have to talk to, and it's just reading the situation like, okay, he doesn't want to talk about it right now, I will talk about it with him later,
right.
Versus no, we have to do it right now. And it's being able to there's so many emotions tied up in it, never mind the fact that there's probably instantly you're on a food high, you might be drinking, and and again, the stakes, $1 million, and you were in the game for a really long time, and you both messed up each other's games, and it's just, there's going to be, you want to think like, okay, we can just talk about this as rational human beings, right. But it takes time to get to that point.
Right, and some people aren't ready for that, so you have to know how to read that situation.
Yeah.
So, I'll be right back.
That's perfectly fine.
I agree. Yeah, you're right, because he was so solid and I guess so confident in his position, and to be taken out by an idol when his group had the numbers.
Yeah.
Why was I singled out? Why was it me? So I could see going from the highest of high being so confident to the low being taken out of the game.
Yeah.
Well, particularly it didn't make sense really to take him out, but they took him out because they didn't like him.
Right. Right.
It's a very personal exit from the game.
Yeah. And then you have Fischbach, way to go, guys. Awesome blindside. Almost, I can't wait to watch this and talk about it on Know-It-Alls. Way to go. And then he goes to camp, and he goes Ponderosa, finds out that Spencer's been out for him for 2 episodes, which totally shocks him. And, just a lot of fun stuff going on at Ponderosa. Oh, boy, his feet were bad, too.
Yes, they were. I call them zombie feet. They look dead to me.
Yeah. So, but really good stuff going on at Ponderosa. So who do y'all think they are voting for at this current moment?
This is the cast. This is the cast count.
This is the cast count requested by Cass. So David always predicts whom each person would be voting for if the vote was right now.
Sorry, I'm just making a list here of who's voting.
Well, while he's doing that, I need to correct him. Our chat room has spoken up.
Oh,
correct
Yao Man didn't play with Yule in Cook Island.
I'm sorry, I was thinking Earl. I'm sorry, that's my bad.
Exactly. Yeah.
As soon as I knew I had messed something up because as soon as I wrote down Earl on my notepad, I was suddenly in that season. So
that's what I thought, because you had just mentioned Earl. So that's that. Because she corrected and said, yeah, it was Yao Man and Earl that were aligned. You're right.
Yeah.
All right,
sorry.
David. David, who is Cass voting for? Or do you have a specific way that you want to tell them? Go ahead.
No, just in the order that they're there.
Okay.
I feel like if Kelly's there, that Cass could vote for Kelly. I don't think she would vote for Abby, but it's going to be who's in the final. I don't think Cass is right now. Right now, if she had the vote
for who's remaining, if they're on the island, they're fair game for a vote. It's not who you think's going to be in Final 3 and then who's she going to vote for if they make Final 3. Of the people that are there, who would Cass vote for?
I'd say Jeremy, because I think she sees him as the leader of that group that she was once on. Who does Andy think Cass would vote for?
She's going to reward great gameplay, and I think right now I'll go with Jeremy just in the sense like he played an idol for somebody else, And so he was making a move that was larger than himself, that he wasn't the one being targeted, which says something about your social game, whereas Kelly had to play her idol to save herself.
Right.
Which is something that some players are given grief for. Like, if you were really great at the game, no one would vote for you, and so you wouldn't need to play your idol. No, I'm not saying that that's accurate, but
I know.
But it is something that people argue. Like, the best of best games are games where your people manage, even though they should be targeted, aren't targeted. And so I think Jeremy fits that bill the most right now.
I think Cass would vote for Kelly, because she played an idol and because she orchestrated the Fischbach stuff and for the way she's playing. So there you go. So I'm going with Cass voting Kelly. All right, David. Savage.
I think Savage is still all Jeremy right now because Jeremy had nothing to do with Savage getting voted out.
Right. I agree with you.
Yeah. No doubt about it. It's his bro, man.
Bro, that's right. Okay, David, next. Wigglesworth.
I think if right now she had to vote, I think she'd vote for Joe because I think she felt most connected to Joe. She appreciated Joe, and I think he would get her vote.
Yep, I agree.
Just to be different, I'll throw a curveball in there. I'll say Kimmy.
Nice.
It's old school
Kimmy.
love. They're both mothers with kids. She could use the money, and Joe has a bright life ahead of him. He'll make plenty.
Now, see,
why we're not the smart ones.
I'm going to bring my bias into the game. Y'all have had your share of your bias with Abby. I'm going to bring my bias into the game, and I hate it when people win a game because they quote unquote need the money. Just did they win the game or not? Okay, fine. I'm done. Off that box.
Well, Jeremy needs it because he got a new baby on the way. So
like I said, I need the money. Please vote for... No. Did you... All right, next. Sierra,
I think, votes Kelly.
Absolutely.
I think they were bonded early on, and I think she votes Kelly.
Absolutely. Andy?
Agreed. They send out too many tweets to each other about how much they love each other. So
that's right. And last but not least, Fischbach.
Oh, Jeremy, easy. He saved his life. He owes him for being in the game, and right now he's happy with a cheeseburger and his drink, but he'd still vote. I think he'd vote Jeremy.
I think he might vote for Spencer. Nice to be laughed at. Go ahead, Andy.
I'm laughing because it's genuinely funny, and I was about to say it too. So.
Oh yes.
You think he would reward somebody who made the move to get him out versus the guy that played with him and kept him in the game?
Absolutely, because one of them outplayed him.
Yeah, no, I think if in the end, I think Stephen, he would go for Jeremy. I think you're right because because the challenges that lie ahead for him, if he were to get to the end, he would have played an idol to save him, made himself vulnerable, been on the top and been in control, had that yanked away from him, and yet still managed to get to the end. I think he'd have to reward his buddy not only because he was his buddy, but because he played the best game.
We got a couple comments real quick in the chat room. In fact, it's all right. She said Cass would vote for Kelly because Kelly betrayed Cass, and I presume she's saying that when Cass got voted out, she ended up voting with them to vote her out. I don't know if Cass knows that at the time, and she also said Sierra will vote how Cass votes. Her Ponderosa video said it all.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, that was
Pondering Ponderosa.
What's up, guys? It's Will from Wonder Lake again, a.k.a. the Giant Ninja. Well, shopping season is upon us again, and if you'd like to support the podcast while you're doing your online shopping at absolutely no cost to you, just visit www.sgwdd.com/Amazon or go to D&D's website and follow the links. Now, back to the show. Later, peeps.
We read them. iTunes reviews.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for iTunes reviews. Thank you so much. We have 130-something reviews, or like ratings, and 99 reviews. The next review is number 100. Next one. We got one iTunes review this week. It's from Glow Liver. GLOLIVER 7148 gave us 5 stars and titled the review, "Keeps me entertained on the overnight shift." Well, that's better than, puts me to sleep when I'm trying to sleep at night.
I totally want to write the 100th review and be like, it's a great show, except for that one guy who likes Abby.
Yeah, right.
I don't understand.
Yeah. So thank you for the reviews. You can read their full review and leave us your own review on our website. Just scroll down, stwdd.com, scroll down, and there you go. All right, so Andy Baker, you have the wonderful joy and privilege of helping me on Mikko's challenge, because without help, I have no chance in winning.
All right, let's do this.
And so we got to do our Mikko's challenge spot. Where is it? There it is. No, we don't, because that's too long. All right, Mikko's challenge. Are you ready, David?
Yes, I'm ready. I love it when you're off the cuff. I'm not playing it.
David is winning 59-48 in the Mikko's challenge. The way this works, Andy, let's just assume you haven't ever listened to our show and you don't know, is we will say quotes, and then we have to attribute them to the correct person for 1 point each. And then we have 2 questions. We get 3 points if we get them outright correct, and 1 point if we get it correct out of the multiple choice. Do we understand the rules?
I believe so.
All right. Here we go, David. You can go first, David, since I have...
Quote number 1. Kill the golden boy.
What?
Kill the golden boy.
I'm going to converse with my friend Andy and say that was Keith. Do you agree?
I agree.
We agree.
1 point. I'm keeping track of your points this time because you always yell at me when I don't.
It's like a new game every time we get back from tribal.
That would be Spencer. Let me converse with myself. Yes, that's Spencer.
Yes. I have no shame in asking help.
All right, quote number 2. I don't feel like I lost reward.
That was... Oh, wait, who was that? That was Kelly. Don't you agree, Andy? That was Kelly?
Oh, yeah, sure. Yes.
That was Kelly.
Let's go. Now Andy's starting to fall asleep. So.
Oh, come on, Andy. We only got like 15 more minutes, maybe 10.
Just took me a second.
Andy agrees with me. Are we correct?
Yes. I already said you
right.
were. Yeah.
Good. If he can do that, I can certainly endure these elements.
That was Kimmy, because she only spoke like twice in the whole episode.
Yes, it was. We're rocking it right now.
Well,
I haven't even needed Andy's help yet.
I haven't seen. I feel like I haven't seen it in a week.
Oh, I know. I watched it Wednesday, like at 11 o'clock. All right, let's go.
People are coming for me.
People are coming for me. That would be Joe, don't you think, Andy? Joe? Or was it Fischbach? I think it was Joe.
Why not? Go with Joe.
Yeah, we're going Joe.
Always good to go with Joe.
Yeah.
3.
I'm ready to shake up this game a little bit.
That's Kelly.
Yes, it is. Bravo, David. Bravo.
Something has to give. Something has to break.
Something has to give. Something has to break. Something has to give. Something has to break. It's the baby. Oh, wait, no. That's...
AC
All right.
without an answer.
Something has to give. Something has to break. I would say Kelly, but I'm probably wrong. What do you think, Andy?
I don't know. This one's...
I'm going to go with your answer on this one.
I'm going to throw something against the wall here. Maybe... I mean, she spoke a lot. Tasha?
All right. We're going with Tasha.
2 strikes. It was Spencer.
Okay.
Ugh.
I had no idea who said that quote.
Yeah.
No,
That's a tough one, man.
Yeah, that was tough.
This one's easy. $1 Million Shelter.
That was one of two people. Shoot. Was it Spencer?
Oh, no, it was
No.
Tasha.
Actually, I thought it was Fischbach, too.
You said it at Tribal Council.
Oh, yeah.
All right, next.
Number 5, Sneaky Jeremy.
Oh, hold on. That was Joe when they came back into Tribal, when they came back into camp. You agree, Andy? Oh,
sure.
You're right. He said it with a Kelly voice, too.
Yes, so Miko's trying to fool me here. All right, interesting Tribal, huh? Wow, this is a hard one. This is a hard one. Interesting Tribal, huh?
So that was probably said when they came back. No?
Yeah, I would think so, yeah. Da, 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 da. What do you think, Andy? Da, da, da. You want to help him?
I think you would not be able to be good at Survivor, so I'm going to say Sierra just because you said that. It's because you point me to the second episode. So I don't know who says it. Was it Sierra?
Yes, it was Sierra. Idiot. How'd you know? What? I didn't give that away.
Because I thought you were pointing me to the second episode where she was out.
Oh, I wasn't.
Because I was saying when they came back from Tribal.
Well, that's because when else would you say interesting Tribal, huh?
Yeah, but she wasn't there in the second episode. So.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
All right.
Never say that on Survivor.
Never say that on Survivor. Well, that was us. Every time someone said they were safe.
And who said it?
Oh, who said it in the game?
Never say that on Survivor.
That sounds like something Fischbach would say.
Yeah, that was Steven.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the point.
Woohoo! This game is constantly changing.
Oh, there's like 5 people that could have said that.
Mm-hmm. Do you need help from Andy? I will offer his services.
Only if he knows, because I don't know. So I'll guess.
I mean, I'd be guessing the likely usual suspects.
Say Tasha.
And the answer is Sierra again.
Ooh.
All right, my turn.
I'm here to win $1 million, cut and dry.
I'm here to win $1 million, cut and dry. I have no idea who said that.
That's Keith, probably.
Mm.
Right, because he has that moment where he talks about winning $1 million.
All right, we'll go with Keith.
You'd be right.
Yeah! I told you it was a good idea to have Andy on tonight. Our first thing was supposed to be Sierra.
Oh, that's Jeremy trying to get the group off of Fischbach.
Yep. Mr. Jeremy trying to save Fischbach at all costs. All right. Wow, he's got a lot of quotes today. Go ahead.
He does. We have a dilemma between I and we.
We have a dilemma between I and we?
That's what it is.
That's weird. We have a dilemma between I and we. I have absolutely no idea.
Is that Spencer? It sounds like him.
But I think it sounds like Spencer.
Is that what you're going with?
Yes, Spencer.
All right, it is Spencer. Yeah, he was at the tree, and he said I and we.
Yes, I remember that. Yes.
Okay.
Who's going to be selfish and who's going to be unselfish? Oh, this was obvious.
That's Tasha.
Yes. All right.
Number 9. How lucky am I?
How lucky am I? Said Kelly, the queen of all.
I was going to say, Andy gave you that one. Yep.
I owe him for that.
That would be Fischbach.
Yes. Although he wrote Steven on the paper, so we'll see.
All right, here's the tough one. You ready?
Uh-huh.
Why are you freaking out?
That was, I think that was Abby talking to Fischbach.
I think
Am I right?
Yep.
Yep.
That was number 10.
Woo! As soon as he loses, he has to go.
Oh, that was Tasha.
Yes, it was. Boy, you know what? I bet all our listeners don't enjoy this as much when I do well.
All right, here's the tough
I'm enjoying it a whole lot more than I usually do.
I have some decisions to make.
I have some decisions to make. That would be Abby for sure. Do you agree with me, Andy?
Sure, why not?
Okay, because I was going to go against you if you did not agree with me. Abby.
You're right. You're too good a mood when you get questions right.
Yeah. This is a game where you have to trust people.
That's not how Tasha said it.
This is a game.
I think it's
trust
at that point to Steven because he trusted Spencer and it didn't work for him. So I'm going to say Fischbach. Or Steven, if that's what he wrote.
It is Steven. All right.
Number 12. Which alliance is the most loyal to you?
That was Abby again.
This is?
Woohoo!
She is coming in. Look at you. You're getting all these Abby quotes.
I know.
Favorite player this year?
I have two options. We'll see.
That's Abby.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I'm not the only one that likes Abby.
All right. You'd have to be blind to not see them three. All right. You'd have to be blind to not see them three. I had to read it a couple times.
Keith, do you agree, Andy?
Sure. Why not?
I know.
I had to read it because it was in Keith talk.
Yeah. It was. Yep.
Yeah.
I need everybody to be out of camp.
Oh, that's Kelly.
Yeah, that was
That was one of my favorite moments too.
Yep.
14 is you were running like a deer out there.
I don't know who said that.
I knew this one.
No, I think it might be Keith talking about Steven during the reward challenge.
That sounds about right. Yep.
Exactly right.
Yep. Awesome. If I go that route, I run a big risk, and it scares me to death. If I go that route, I run a big risk, and it scares me to death.
See, it seemed like the end of the episode and the second episode, most of the strategy we got was from Spencer. I'm going to say Spencer. Other than Fischbach, and Fischbach didn't say anything like that. I think it's Spencer.
Jerk. You're right. I hate it when you get things right because you analyze the episode. All right. Last quote.
Tonight is a really big test.
Tonight is a really big test.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any ideas, Andy?
I think it is. It's either Spencer or Steven just talking about. Although, would Spencer be talking about being a test?
Yeah, you're right.
He's not the one testing people.
Yeah, let's go Fischbach. Let's do it. We're going Fischbach.
Sure.
Yes.
It was Joe.
Joe?
Oh, really?
Yes.
Whatever.
Because he was testing the group that was going to work with him.
No, Joe didn't say that.
Fischbach didn't need a test. He knew people were putting him in.
There is still trust in this game. There is still trust in this game.
Good gosh.
I'm just shocked we didn't get the marinating quote.
I've been too easy. There is still trust in this game.
Hasn't gotten a quote yet. Hasn't gotten a quote yet.
You're laughing, so I'm not going to believe you. There's still trust in this game.
Yeah, I don't ever take this long to answer. Come on.
Well, you go through the names sometimes when you're trying to think of who it said something.
Well, hurry up.
Pictures.
It's 4:10. 5:10. Hurry up. I'll bring up Abby again and get you all upset.
I'll go with Jeremy.
It was Steven.
Wow.
All right, so you missed 3.
Yep.
How many did I miss?
2. You picked up 1 point.
All right. All right, question. Now, Andy, if we get this right without multiple choice, we get 3 points. All right, here we go.
Question number 1. Who scored points for purple in episode 10 reward challenge?
Who scored points for purple? I got to remember what in the world the reward challenge was. Hold on.
Yeah.
I'm not helping you at all.
Episode 10.
All right, first challenge they did. We're horrible. All right, the reward challenge in the second episode was the nighttime challenge.
Right, so that's individual.
So in the
okay. So no, it's the tackling each other with the balls in the water.
Yes, it is. Oh, I fast forwarded through that.
I think Nick can sense that.
So who scored points for purple. Now who is on purple?
Yeah, who was on purple? My gosh!
I have no idea.
I know Joe scored.
Yeah.
Once, at least.
Spencer scored.
Yes, I remember Spencer scoring.
Didn't Tasha score somewhere in there?
Yes, because she went like this when she scored, I think. Oh. And then, I think, did Abby score one?
No.
All right, so we have no idea, but we're going with those three.
Okay, were you serious about Abby?
No.
Okay, good. Because he did say points, which means the winning team, because they won 3-1. There was not a single point for the other one. And it was Joe, Spencer, and Tasha.
We got it right!
All three.
Boom! What color was Keith's platform of the Episode 10 Immunity Challenge?
Episode 10 was the all belt thing.
I remember this because I remember thinking something about it. Andy left. He's so excited. Andy's so thrilled to be here. He left.
No, I'm back.
Was it blue?
The answer was not blue. So now you have three choices: white, red, or black. White, red, or black.
I remember seeing black, but I thought black was Joe, so I'll say black.
Wait, you said? Say that again?
I remember seeing black in the challenge, but I thought Joe was doing black, so I'll say black, assuming it was Keith.
So you think Keith was black, even though you thought Joe was black?
Right, but I remember seeing black, but I'm not sure Joe was black.
Oh,
I just thought
okay.
Joe was black.
You're right. You get a point for that.
Cool.
Crap. All right, last question.
You're still making up points.
Last question. Yeah. Then we get to. And then Andy can be free to go take care of his sick baby.
All right. How many people have won 5 individual immunities in one season?
Including Joe.
Well, he didn't win a 5th.
Oh. Not including Joe. 3. I think 3.
There's Terry. Who are the others? Ozzy.
Mike Holloway.
Okay. We'll go with that 3 then.
3.
That would be incorrect.
Incorrect.
Well, what are our options?
Your options are A, 3.
No.
B, 5. C, 6.
We'll say 5. What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
1 point. Good job. 1 point.
Woo. All right, David.
Did Colby win?
I don't know.
5?
He might have.
And Tom Weston, I thought he won like 5. No, I might be wrong there. Yeah, he says 5.
According to Propst's commentary, who were the 3 people that got their blocks down first in Episode 11 Immunity Challenge? 1 point per name.
I want to say Abby. I know Spencer was last, I think, because he was coming from behind. So I'll say Abby, Joe, and Keith.
Kelly, Abby, Kimmy.
Wow. So I got 1.
Yeah.
Okay. So you picked up a lot of points. You picked up like 4 points.
2 or 3 points, something like that.
3, I think.
Yeah, 3 points, yep.
So, how are you and Andy doing versus me and Steve on the D&D Survival Challenge?
I think we should just end the challenge right now.
I bet you do.
Right where it is.
Well, you know what's interesting is every week we keep saying, well, this won't last for long. But every week, y'all keep on being in the lead. Y'all are going to end up winning this thing.
No, we don't have enough players left in the game at this point.
We're down to 2.
Yeah. And, I'm telling you, unless suddenly, Kelly and Spencer, fall in love and the show becomes all about that.
Yeah.
It's not likely that...
Yeah, let me ask Kelly if she and Spencer are in love, and we'll see how that...
we need Jeremy to give his idol to Spencer.
Yeah.
Going forward.
Oh, by the way, I loved it whenever Jeremy played his idol, and Fischbach got no points for the idol. Only Jeremy got points. That was great. All right, I'll tell you what.
I'm coming up with so many categories to add for next year, by the way.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what.
Shane is going, no.
Since we had 2 episodes, just head on over to our website and check it out. But suffice it to say, the final result.
Yeah, I'll give you the totals for each episode. For episode 10, David and Andy picked up 51 points. Steve and Dwayne picked up 70 points.
Woo!
Because of Jeremy's idle play. And because Joe got like 18 points.
Right.
And then for episode 11, week 11, Steve and Dwayne disappeared and only got 30 points.
Yeah, what's up with that?
And we got the title on both episodes, so that was cool. And Dave and Andy picked up 66 points.
Yeah, that's just ridiculous. You did that with 3 players.
I know, right? So the score as it stands is the Cool Cats, Steve and Dwayne, 777 points, which is a good number.
Very good.
And the Nerd Herd with David and Andy is 797 points. We have a 20-point lead.
20 points ahead.
So basically, that's going to count like a third person for us. So if we count that as 20 for a successful player next week, it's like having a third person, which is still not like having 6 people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
well, as
soon as the episode starts, you're going to pick up 3 points on us.
Yeah, that's true.
Actually, 4.
Well, we do want to thank Shayna because she meticulously watches the episode and counts all these points. So we can't add more categories for the poor woman.
Oh, these would be easy. These would be easy.
Yeah, just give David points.
I mean, like if you play an idol and it saves somebody else or yourself, you also get a point for every vote that was cast against you. Stuff like that.
Oh, okay. All right.
I think that would be cool.
All right. Andy, you got anything you want to say before I close out the show?
No, I think that's it. I just I got to finish up my column, and when it's done, I'll tweet out and come check it out.
Yeah, go to TrueDorkTimes.com, and that's Jeff Pittman's site. Wonderful site. Check it out. And not only read Andy Baker's column every week, but read Jeff's recap every week, which is also very nice.
And we have an additional writer there now who he's fantastic. He's a professor, I want to say.
From the stuff he talks about.
Yeah, he's working on his PhD in communication theory, and so he talks about a lot of social psychology, and
wow,
it's fascinating stuff. It's very accessible. It's not too academic. He's a bright guy.
I loved his talk last week about Probst influencing people by talking about a big move needs to be made.
Yeah,
constantly saying that, and Sierra constantly saying that. And it's almost like Probst put that into her psyche, so that's what has to happen for you to get to that end. So I love the influence he talked about in his article last week. That was really good.
Yeah, his name is Pat Ferrucci, and he has a new column up. I just saw here, Construction Junction, How Do You Function? So his column is called Well in Theory, and he applies some pretty fascinating stuff to the game.
Cool. And when you're done doing that, check on our website, stwdd.com. We have 4 bloggers right now. We have Brian Marr, Katya's not blogging anymore. Brian, Shayna, Alex, and of course, Colton Cumby's doing his stuff. So check that out at stwdd.com. A huge thank you to our patrons who support us monthly. You can become a D&D patron for as little as the cost of your favorite drink. So we would ask you to please consider doing that. And also, when you're shopping for Christmas and you're using Amazon, visit our website first and use our link. I know it's an extra step, so we really appreciate it when you do it. It really makes a huge difference, so thank you so much for doing that. So that's all I've got. That's all you've got. Thank you, Andy Baker, for being on the show. It was wonderful.
Truly a pleasure. Happy Thanksgiving to you guys.
Yeah, it's nice having the family man on the show tonight. Do you know who sang this?
Is that... I don't know why I want to say Rick Springfield, but that's wrong.
That's Hall & Oates, isn't it?
Oh, there we go.
Yes, Hall & Oates.
There we go.
All right, bye, everybody.
All right, good night.
See ya.